All right. Well, welcome everybody. My name is Art Larson. I am the Job Service Field Director for the state of Minnesota, and pleased to meet with you today to talk about CareerForce and how students can access WIOA services. So you with ABE are Title II under WIOA. My group is Title III, that's Wagner Pizer or Employment Service. And then, of course, the Title I would be dislocated worker, WIOA adult, youth, and various other programs. The CareerForce system is an attempt to do something that is done nationally. Nationally, they're called one-stops. In Minnesota, when I was hired into this position or into my previous position, they were called workforce centers. And we went through a rebranding several years ago, and we're now known as CareerForce locations. There are about 50 of them throughout the state of Minnesota. But most people don't hear about us until they are called in for an unemployment session. Some people stumble upon us. Some people maybe are in programs and they connect with CareerForce locations. But I have to admit, when I was a vendor for CareerForce, I was a CARF accredited vendor for rehab services. I also marketed my services to dislocated worker, did several dislocated worker projects. And I had no idea what the entire system could do for a job seeker until I myself became unemployed in about 2000 and basically went through an RESEA session through unemployment. And that's how I got introduced to the CareerForce, or what was known as the workforce locations at the time. So what we're going to be covering today is, and you're going to notice some of this looks like it's from the job seeker perspective, and that's because this is adapted from our CareerForce orientation for this specific audience. But some of the things we're going to go through is we're going to talk about what job service staff can do for your participants, for your students. And what job service means is in Minnesota, the Employment Service Program, Title III, goes under an umbrella called job service. And there's several different programs that run underneath that. And then underneath the larger umbrella, we have CareerForce Division. CareerForce Division also includes our VETS programs. For the participant, they don't need to know any of that. All they need to know is there's a CareerForce location where there's a collection of services that can help them in a variety of ways. So my staff, job service staff, is what I directly control. So I'll be talking a little bit about that, and then who we refer out to when we ourselves can't assist. So we'll talk about how we assist people with writing and updating their resume, how we help people practice their interview skills, how we connect them to other services, including veterans, dislocated worker, and voc rehab, which would be Title IV under WIOA. And then some of the other things we're able to do is give access to no-cost trainings in a particular area. Now, I don't say free trainings because nothing is free. It's paid for by some means, but it's free to the participant or at no cost to the participant. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is, and I don't know, I'm not sure. I know I can't do it from mine, but is there an ability to do like a thumbs up? Is there like a thumbs up reaction you can do? Someone give me a thumbs up reaction if you can do a thumbs up. Oh, there we go. Thank you, Craig. So just by a show of thumbs up, how many of you have been to a CareerForce location? Looks like a few of you. I know some of you are actually located in CareerForce locations. When I was the manager in Duluth, I had the privilege to work with one of your former coworkers, Patty Fleege, with ABE, and we were the pilot, one of the pilot locations for the digital literacy program. So the North Star Digital Literacy, I went down to St. Paul and we went through the whole pilot process, and I know that's still in some way going on today. But CareerForce locations do exist throughout the state, and they're different throughout the state. Some are what we call comprehensive locations. That means that all titles are represented. And some would be VRS standalones. Some would be Minnesota Family Investment Program, or MFIB standalones, that are branded under CareerForce. But in almost all cases, they can give access or refer out to the wide range of services. So what I'm going to be doing today is I'm going to be going back and forth in between the PowerPoint presentation and the website. It just so happens that by an enormous coincidence, the one day that I want to use the website for a presentation is the day that it is currently undergoing a massive update. This is part of a large reworking of our state's labor exchange. This has been going on for years. I've been involved in it myself for at least 3 years. But while we're doing an update to the labor exchange, the CareerForceMN.com website, which will host the labor exchange, is also being vastly updated and improved. So if you haven't been on it for a while or have never been on it, please make sure to bookmark it. This link, along with all other links that I mentioned today, are in the PDF handout that you will get emailed to you if you don't have it already. So just a couple things about the CareerForce locations. When you get to that link, you just type in your zip code. So this would be a Duluth zip code. And then you say how far away you want to see it. And it'll tell you that within 40 miles of that zip code, there is Duluth, there's rehab in Duluth, and then there's also Cloquet. There's also something called CareerForce from anywhere. So when the pandemic hit, like all of us, we had to figure out a different way of providing services. And what that meant for me is I had to create the state's virtual services platform. And for a very short period of time, because we had no mechanism to do that, everything was run through my office in Duluth. And so Duluth had, and forever will, have the largest amount of workshop participants in any given month in the state's history. I think we had like 3,000 people take a workshop through Duluth. We realized we needed another product for that. So we created CareerForce from Anywhere, which is our virtual location. And still to this day, we provide workshops virtually on a weekly basis. We use our state branded workshop called the Creative Job Search, which has just been updated. We do that every single week on Tuesdays. And then on alternating Wednesdays, we either do a resume workshop or an interview workshop. So some people that works very well. And for many, that's all they need. They just need a short introduction to job search, maybe a refresher on how to put a resume together. But for others, that's their pathway to other services. At the end of each of those workshops, we provide information on how to connect to your local CareerForce location. And that's really how you're going to get that one-on-one assistance, whether that be over the phone, online, or in person. People are getting more and more comfortable coming into locations. So what that looks like on the website is it's underneath CareerForce locations. And then it has an unfiltered list of all the locations. And to see for a particular location, if you want to find out what's going on in, let's say, Burnsville, I'll use that as an example because there's something going on in Burnsville. If I click on it, it has its own webpage. And in its own webpage, you'll see that Burnsville is closed. We are currently moving that location and should have it reopened sometime in January. But you can see that we still have virtual services or virtual one-on-ones in which people can connect with staff to get assistance. Some locations offer a wide variety of workshops and one-on-one appointments. Some don't offer any, but they can still utilize services throughout the state in a variety of ways. One would be to work with the information and assistance line, and that is on the bottom of every single header or footer, you'll have the number for the CareerForce information and assistance line, and we can provide triage services for immediate needs through our phone system. Once that's completed, we connect them with a local provider that can give them local information, and that's very important. The employers in Duluth are not the same as the employers in Marshall or St. Cloud. I recently visited many locations throughout the state, and they are all very unique. And it's important that you have staff that have the information necessary to effectively connect people to those employers or those resources, whether they be schools or financial resources. On the website, we also have a large amount of online tools. Some people really like just doing kind of a self-service. And through that, we have an employment readiness assessment, we have a skills matcher, and we have an interest profiler. Now, these are very similar to what you might find on Career One Stop. If you're familiar with that website, that's the national website that just so happens to be located out of the same department I am. I'm a DEED employee, Department of Employment and Economic Development. Really rolls out the lips. But the Career One Stop group is actually funded and connected to my larger organization. And so we have a lot of opportunity to collaborate on a lot of the tools that are available. And so how you would find them is you'd go to online tools, and someone could do, like, if they're just starting, where do I start in my career journey? They could do an interest profiler, and it'll take them just a few minutes to answer some questions. And based on that, it's going to give you, well, here's the type of work you might be interested in. And for many people, that's the first step. For those that are more advanced in their career, they might want to use the skills matcher. And what this will do is it'll take the type of work you've done in the past and then match that to current jobs that are available that utilize the same skills. So that can really help people that maybe are transitioning from one career that's no longer relevant in their area or available to another type of work.
Art, we have a question from Amy. She asks, are there interpreter services available for the phone line? So we do.
I'm so glad you asked that.
Yeah, great.
Yeah. So if you call the phone line, it's my voice you hear. I do the voice prompts for the phone line. And one of the things I did recently was I recorded or prepped for native speakers recordings for interpretive services. So when you call, it'll say for English, press 1, and then it'll say in Spanish, for Spanish speak 2. And then we also have Hmong and Somali. And then there's all other languages. What that does is it puts you to a voice queue in the same language, leave your message at the tone, and someone will call you back with an interpreter prepped on the line. So we use something called the language line to provide interpretive services. And that works really well because then it prevents a lot of awkward back and forth of trying to figure out what we need to do and how we need to do it. We do have some native speakers in our organization that we can utilize at times, but the language line is something that allows us to. We haven't been stumped yet. We've never run into a situation where we couldn't serve somebody regardless of what language they spoke. So great question. Resume review is one of our most popular things that we get. We have people coming in with, I'm sure you've run into yourself if you worked with anyone who's been in the job search, a lot of resume types. I've done a lot of interviewing lately, and to this day, I'm amazed at the difference between someone who presents themselves with a good resume versus someone who hasn't had this information in the past. It's a stark contrast, and if you've never met the person, the only thing you have to determine their organization, their education, their style, their thoroughness is the resume you see in front of you. And seeing something like this may be okay, but we help it get to this. We help them get to a resume that looks polished, that speaks to the skills, that matches those skills to the needs of the employer. And that can be done fairly quickly. We don't create resumes. We assist people in developing resumes. And the difference there is we don't know what your background is. We can give you a data sheet for you to fill in, and then we can assist you in developing that resume based on templates or just doing it from scratch. But we're not going to type out the entire thing for you because we don't know what you know. We can help assist you in translating what you know into the needs of the next employer. One that I wish people would utilize a little bit more is, excuse me, I got a cough here, just a second, see if I can mute so I'm not, nope, I can't mute. So excuse me, is interview prep. Like I said, I've been through a lot of interviews in the past several months, and I don't know what someone can do for my organization unless they tell me. And I know there's a lot of skills out there that exist for every applicant, really. Their ability to communicate that is the only way I'm going to be able to buy into their value to my organization. So what we what we provide is the ability for people to do a one-on-one interview or mock interview. And that can be done over the phone. It can be done through like a Teams meeting. It can be done through WebEx. Like I said, we do have Teams. We do have a Zoom license. We don't use Zoom as much as other organizations do, but it's very popular. And to show you how long I've been doing this, we started off using Skype. So there's a wide variety of methods we can do. We can even do Google Meet if that's what someone is interested in. And then over the phone, for some people, that's that first step. And it can be really beneficial for them because then they don't have to deal with the technology. Maybe we do a couple questions over the phone and say, hey, if you've got an interview coming up, why don't you give us a call back? And we'll set up a online session in the same platform that you got your link for. So you're just comfortable with the process. Another thing we do is, and it's one of our mandated and most important customers, is veterans. When anyone walks into a CareerForce location, the first question they're asked are you a veteran? If they are, we connect them to 15 veterans employment representatives throughout the state, and to see if they can provide them more intensive services. We even have people who specialize in justice involved veterans. There's something called Veterans Court that our staff are very involved in. And we also have Native American veteran resources. We have people who specialize in that population. So if you do have a veteran, they're called DVOPs and leavers in our organization. DVOPs work with the veterans themselves, and the leavers work with employers to really kind of make that connection between employers and job seekers who happen to be veterans. One of the most popular things that we promote when we talk to unemployed people is dislocated worker services. Wagner Pizer staff, my staff, do not case manage for the most part. We work with people on a kind of a triage. We help them with the most important thing, and then we figure out who is next that they may need. They may not need anyone else. But if they have a lack of training or of a certification, or maybe they need assistance getting to an interview that happens to be out of their town, dislocated worker counselors can help. In fact, some of my staff through other contracts are actually dislocated worker counselors. So in some cases, my staff refer to my staff. In other locations, those are held by partner agencies that also exist within each CareerForce location. What they can help with is one-to-one assistance, like my staff could, but they do it more on a counselor job seeker basis, and they can create a personal plan for their employment, and then they can help get their GED, which would create a referral to your agency to help those individuals. They can also fund up to 2 years, I believe, of education. So there are some short-term and long-term. The example I always give, I used to work for an organization called Avivo, and they're still in existence, but they were Resource Incorporated when I worked for them. And we had a maintenance custodial program that was very successful. But how we added value to that is we added 2 certification, pool maintenance and boiler operators. And so that boiler operator's certificate or license actually would allow people to take that next step in their career. So if they have a certain level of experience, that license would prevent them from applying for that next step. And that's a short-term training that's accredited and licensed that allows people to apply and obtain higher levels of employment. And then we also have disability resources. Like I mentioned, VRS, WIOA Title IV, is located or available for referral in almost all CareerForce locations. In fact, all CareerForce locations can refer you to a VRS counselor. And in the PDF that I sent, we do have the questionnaire for veterans, and we have the questionnaire and contact information for connecting to VRS. If someone is interested, they can email, and I've tested it myself. I've tested them both out. I've emailed both of them, and within minutes, I get a response and can get connected to a person who can answer my questions about eligibility what the program can potentially do for me. I worked in the past. I worked a lot with VR, and it's a wonderful program that assists people with what they need and where they're at. And there's the website. Part of what I do is I assist to maintain the state's online job bank. So that's currently minnesotaworks.net. This is what is being revamped. I still love minnesotaworks.net. It's an older labor exchange, but we're being very, very careful in creating a really nice replacement that's more modern, has more options, is more user-friendly. Having said all that, it's perfectly fine right now. It has, doesn't have 130,000. That shows you how much the economy has changed. There's about 65,000 jobs currently posted on minnesotaworks.net. These are all vetted jobs. So the difference between someone going on another site and Minnesota Works is when employers connect with us, we vet them. We call them back. We make sure that they have employer ID numbers. We make sure that there's no scams. We don't accept contract work on the site. They have to pay into unemployment. That's how we fund the site. And it's also free to job seekers. Job seekers can have up to 5 resumes on Minnesota Works. And the reason we do that is because they may be looking for a different type of work. For the last 30 years, I've been an event DJ, and I've also been in workforce development for 20 years. I don't put both of them on the same resume. If I were to be a DJ / workforce development rep, a lot of people would say that's a mixed message and would wonder where my priorities are and what my availability would be. So I can put 2 different resumes to market those 2 sides of my career. And like I said, that's going through an overhaul. We're hoping in February to be able to roll it out, and there'll be a lot of media around that. There'll be one of the few times that we have some funding to market this really, really nice upgrade to what job seekers can access. We do have the virtual and interactive services. Like I said, this allows you to register for, and we use the WebEx platform for this, for these workshops, but we also record them, which is really nice. For the creative job search on a weekly basis, when people attend it, they can get on it, they can ask their questions, they're answered right during that presentation. They can also register for one-to-one consultations after that in their local area. But then we send them that follow-along email that has all of the information we talked about, plus a recording so that they can watch it at their leisure. And we put that on YouTube. And if they subscribe to the YouTube channel, they have access to all past recordings. We have some other recordings on there also. We do have some interpreted recordings in Hmong and Somali, and I believe in Spanish. And we also have some technical recordings. Now, normally we're not able to do that. Everything we do is around job search, but we realize that people have to be able to use Microsoft Word in many cases to create a resume. So I did a series of Microsoft Word training videos that we put on the site. And we even did some Excel training videos when COVID happened and people were just looking to expand their skills. We put a couple of videos up there and recorded them so people can watch, or save them so people could watch at a later date. Another thing that we're very excited about is the training program finder. Now, this is an attempt for us to put the at no cost trainings available in particular areas. So I know Julie Dinkow with ABE puts the statewide trainings available on here. But we also have things like if someone wanted to learn Word, PowerPoint, and Excel. Now, like I said, my group, Wagner Pizer, cannot teach this simply because it's not a job search skill. It's more of a job skill. So our partners can do it though. And if it's available and at no cost, income eligible, of course, but it would be available for them to promote here. And we've had a tremendous success in filling up these classes. I've been someone who has ran a lot of classes in my time, and now that was, if this had existed when I was doing this, I used to hand out pamphlets. I used to go into workforce locations throughout the area and I'd put them into people's little mail slots. And we've advanced quite a bit since then, and it's awesome that people can access these, really things that get them accreditation. They can get CompTIA, they can get Microsoft Office Specialist. That's something I used to train myself in a previous life, and it's attested and world recognized accreditation, and people can get that for free, which is awesome. If you haven't taken a look at CareerForceMN.com, I highly recommend you do it. It's a huge site. There's a lot there, but I'll just show you kind of some of the things that you can do to, familiarize yourself so that you can send people to the right maybe link or assist them to navigate the site. The upcoming events are always going to be at the bottom, and you can click on find a filterable list of events, workshops, and appointments. And these can be pre-filtered. So we always feature an event. So next week we have our creative job search, internet and social media. That's available, and that's a very popular one. We usually get over 200 people for that. But then we have the one-on-one appointments in various areas. We have advanced resume writing happening in St. Paul. But again, you can filter these by location, or you can filter them by type. And it will show you kind of the ones available throughout the state. There's also on here something called the Career Fairs plus Networking Events. Locally, we call it the Trumba calendar, but that doesn't really make sense to a whole lot of people. And so what this is for hiring fairs, hiring events, job clubs, also networking opportunities. But like we had a event in St. Cloud, we had a local hiring event, 2 in the last couple months. They had like 16 employers, were very well attended. And this is how an organization can get their event onto our calendar so that we can market it for them. All right. So the next thing I wanted to talk about, and I will fully admit that I am not the expert at this, but my staff are, and that's Bridge to Benefits. So that I was asked to talk a little bit about that website. Just by show of hand, who uses the Bridge to Benefits website currently? Not seeing any thumbs up or hands. Oh, there's one. The host does. Okay, perfect. So this website, I'll show you what it looks like. It's put on by the Children's Defense Fund of Minnesota, and it's a really slick website. And what it allows you to do is kind of work with someone. I do recommend you work with the person yourself. I mean, it can be done by the individual, but a lot of the terms and a lot of the information they may not be comfortable with, or if they are, fine. But if they do need help, I do really recommend you kind of sit down with them. And all you have to really do is hit start. And it's just a screening tool. It does not guarantee that you will get the help, but it asks a lot of questions that will direct you to what is available in your area. And it asks kind of the standard, if you've ever done an intake with somebody, it asks demographic questions, it asks income questions, it asks who's in your household, that sort of things. But it can really show you what, like energy assistance, SNAP benefits, various other income assistance or monetary assistance that someone can access in their area, because every individual location throughout the state has different services available and under different circumstances. So I'm just going to kind of run through some of the things that it does. And then rather than go through these one by one, I do have several slides here, and they're in the handout that you're given. But it can also lead to healthcare programs for Minnesota in poverty conditions. That's who the main audience is people that are economically disadvantaged. It does have some information on tax credits and MNsure, which is really great. For a lot of people, they have to go to a ton of different websites to figure out what they're eligible for. At the end of this process, I'll show you what it looks like. And there's SNAP and there's WIC. There's educational benefits, there's meal programs. When you go through all of the questions, even MFIB, it takes you to a example of results, or I put an example of results. I did it for myself. I just made up some information, and it said that I might be eligible for a child tax credit up to $2,100. I'm eligible for estimate benefit of $1,040 for MFIB. Now, again, this is not a guarantee of anything being available, but it does show you what may be available based on the questions that you answer. Now, I don't have any kids outside. I don't have not a single parent. I didn't have kids that were of whatever age. So there was no childcare costs associated. Since we have supplemental nutrition assistance program up here, one of the cool things we've been able to do in the last 10 months, it's our 11th month of doing this, is our organization, Job Service, reaches out to time-limited SNAP participants. We've reached out to about 10,000 at this point, or 5,000, excuse me, 5,000 individuals at this point. And the reason we're doing that is we've often been told, in fact, the 13, 14 years I've been here, that we're the best kept secret in Minnesota. Of course, we don't want to be a secret, but the problem with any WIOA funded program, in most cases, is there's no money associated to market it, or very little. And so people come to us when they're in crisis, when they have lost their job. And so that we can't really do any preventative maintenance. I mean, people can come, anyone can come. We serve the universal customer. Anyone can come in and access our services. But most people don't know our services exist, even if we've been in their town for decades. So with SNAP, they are not required to come in for a session like we would for unemployment. Unemployment, that's a requirement that they have to go through a session that tells them about the requirements of the program, and then they're referred to my staff, and then we assist them with whatever they need. For SNAP participants, that's not something that has to happen, but we can still be a benefit. We can still offer services. And so what we do is we reach out to about 500 SNAP recipients per month and just let them know that we're in their area. There's some things that we can assist them with. And also there's some trainings that we can connect them to that could potentially extend their benefits. If any of you are familiar with SNAP, we've had extension after extension after extension. That's going away. I believe we're finally at the end of the road of that at all possible exemptions. And now the only way for someone to extend their benefits, if they're time limited, is by taking part in a authorized training. And so the majority of the trainings that are on our, if not all, on our training program finder are available for them to take and enhance their career opportunities, but also because they're within that program and it can extend their benefits. You can see here, I could get a $600 annual grant potentially for energy assistance and medical assistance and all the other things associated. So I did want to spend at least 10 minutes kind of opening the floor for any questions you might have. I can still kind of slog through or go through all the different interesting parts of the website. But if anyone has any questions, I don't know if you have the ability to unmute yourself or just want to put it into the chat. I'd be very happy to handle any of those.
Art, there is a question in a chat from Amy, and this is regarding the events, like the hiring events section for CareerForce. Yep. She asks, can anyone just show up to an event, or is there any registration required?
Great question. Well, so I'm going to hit this from both angles, even though you're probably only asking it from one. So there are events like right here. So if you wanted to join this event, you would click on it and it would give you all the information, and then you would register for it. And that's important because this is an online event, we have no way of sending you the link and the join link and all the information. But also, it's very important. It's not required for us. Anyone can stop in and receive services as a universal customer, but we really do encourage people to register for an account. There's a couple reasons for that. One, it allows them to access the labor exchange, and they can apply for jobs and they can register and take part in a lot more information and events and whatever. But two, it allows us to track. Just like when you enroll somebody, you're going to ask a lot of questions to make sure that you are effectively doing your outreach to a wide variety of people. If we can't determine who we're serving, it's a requirement that we ask. It's not a requirement that someone does register, but for like these workshops, there's no other method for someone to take place other than to watch the recorded workshops, and they can certainly do that. But again, having an account allows you better access. Now, as far as the other part of it, for the Trumba calendar or the CareerForce employer-sponsored career fairs, for that, it might just be something that, hey, there's a USPS hiring fair, and that's just telling you about it and where it's going to be and when it's going to be, and you don't have to register for that. So one of the funny things we did when we were trying to figure out how we exist during COVID is we in Duluth had I believe the first in the state outdoor drive-through hiring event. Now you may have had one of these in your area at some point too, but I think we were the first. And we did put it up as something you would register for, just so we could track, who we're serving. But we also allowed, people just to drive up and access that information and get those opportunities. So there are cases where it's even a combination of the both, but we strive to document as much of what we do as possible because we are required to report out, as everyone is in WIOA, to DOL on the services we provide and the outcomes. There's a wage analysis. When someone comes into services with us, we take a look after they're done. Did it have an impact on the amount they were able to earn? So there's some negotiated metrics that we work with the DOL and have to report out. But we don't turn people away. Another exciting thing I got to show you on minnesotaworks.net. We just got this removed on, when did we get it removed? Tuesday. My entire time with the state, when someone registered for an account, there was a third box down here, and I realize you might not be able to read this, that said, I can validate that I am legally able to work in the United States, or I attest that I'm legally able to work in the United States. Based on, if you're familiar with Teagle 1023, that's been going about workforce development circles for a while now. We're trying to reduce barriers as much as possible. And some of the people that have the most barriers are people that are in the process of achieving work authorization. Maybe they're asylees, maybe they're refugees. We don't ask. When someone comes in and they're looking for services, we just provide the services. If we need interpretive services, we figure out a way to do that. And we found that was a barrier because even if someone cannot obtain a job, while they're waiting for that work authorization, they can still look for work. They can still develop a resume, and we can still help them with that. The only thing where we'd be a little careful is if someone self-discloses and then asks for a direct connection to an employer. We're going to let them know that at employment, you're going to have to fill out an I-9, and you're going to have to produce these documents, and we want to make sure that that's the best outcome for all involved. But we do serve truly the universal customer. And we try to limit as much paperwork and as many barriers as possible. I hope that answered your question. I kind of went off on a tangent there, but as far as the events, anyone can register for them. For a lot of the career fairs, you can just show up.
I think that answered Amy's question. Anybody else has any questions? Thoughts, feelings? Oh, Rachel has something. We have a hand up.
I think you've answered this in some ways, but if there are individuals who are coming with international experience or international degrees, and it's hard sometimes for that to exactly translate right away, they may need a license, a certification, they may need to take classes, or maybe they can take maybe there are related jobs, not exactly to what they did prior, but in the field. Like, is that something you're able to assist with in that?
Yeah. So I work for DEED, that I'm part of DEED, and also part of DEED is the Office of New Americans. part of DHS. We work with DHS also. We work with a lot of entities that really specialize in working with what we call them new Americans. As you said, I was working with a gentleman who was, at one point, the Minister of Agriculture in a country. He had a really, really high position. When he came to the United States, he ended up having to work as a Domino's delivery person. And that's how he got his start. And that's very frustrating for someone, coming over. And we see that a lot because a lot of the credentials do not translate. There's a lot of work being done for figuring out reciprocity there. I just had this question just the other day from one of my staff in Worthington. Worthington is, if not one of the most diverse cities in Minnesota, if not the nation. And they do have a lot of people coming with degrees. I've had people from Russia come with doctorates, and they really want to work in the medical field. We do the best we can. There are some resources that we can connect people to, but we're not the experts on that. We would be referring them to other agencies. And there's a lot of work to be done on that. But I have to say, there's more work being done on that right now than there has been in my 20 plus years in workforce development. I wish I had like specific resources. I did try to look that up for someone just the other day, and it didn't come up with. I thought at one point there was a really nice website that was like a crosswalk to like reciprocity, but there's really no easy pathway. It's just having that conversation with an initial person and figuring out what that situation is and kind of moving forward from there.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. I do want to show something off if I can find it, and it's embarrassing that I can't find it. Let's see if it shows up here. Oh, it does. Awesome. Okay, so for the past 3 years, I have been working to update the Creative Job Search Manual. This has been around for many, many years. This is, I believe, version 14. What we did differently this time is we put it online. You used to have to come in. When I've taught Creative Job Search hundreds of times in person throughout northeastern Minnesota. And we'd have, like a group of 25 people and 2 interpreters in a room in Grand Rapids. And it was 7 hours, an all-day session. We decided, because things have changed so dramatically, that we would offer it just for anybody to access on their own. And so we broke it into sections. We even have a really cool flip-top book that people can access, where they can go through it and they can get to whatever their needs are. So it's a good thing to bookmark. It for many people is just the only thing they need. And then we do provide 6 hourly, or they're weekly, but there's 6 sessions of the Creative Job Search, because people's attention span is not as good online as in person. Having said that, I see we're down to the final 20 seconds. I've got my timer sitting here. I just wanted to thank all of you. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for your attention. And thank you for what you do. I work with ABE quite a bit, and I realize the tough work that is being done by you and your coworkers, and it's greatly appreciated. So thanks, and I wish you the best with the rest of your day. And have a great weekend.
Yeah. Thank you, Art. This is fantastic. Thanks everyone for joining us. This has been a fantastic session, and I hope you guys enjoyed the other sessions that were part of the support service conference. As I mentioned earlier today, you will receive an evaluation, so any feedback you can provide is always helpful. If you have some session ideas, we're more than welcome to look at them and take check out new things. So otherwise, if there's anything else anybody wants to share, otherwise I'm going to stop the recording.
Rachel and Art, we did have one more question that accidentally came just to me, and I will read that out.
Okay, I won't stop the recording yet. I'll wait.
I can find it. Okay. Someone's wondering, do you work with the Ticket to Work program with Social Security Disability?
So in the past, I have, when I worked with a resource. In fact, that just came up in a meeting I had, I believe in, I don't know. I've been to a lot of places lately. We don't, like I said, we don't case manage. But if someone were interested in that, generally that goes through I think vocational rehabilitation, and it's something where we could at least connect someone who is interested with a provider in their area. That's a very unique program, by the way. It can work very well for a well-motivated job seeker and work very well for the provider. Honestly, it creates a long-term support and provides incentive for both the provider and the job seeker to work together. But if someone is interested in that, I would definitely reach out to your local CareerForce location and ask for a referral to the provider in your area. But job service as an entity does not.
Great.
Thank you, Art.
Yeah. Okay, everybody, I'm going to stop the recording and end the meeting. Okay, thank you.